Here we are on another LinkedIn Live. Rawan Taha is going to talk to us today about UN entry-level jobs and related pieces of work in the UN for things that we haven't talked about before. So Rawan, take it away. I'm excited to hear from you today for learning for all of us.
All right, thank you, Sue. Um, Let me just put this in full screen mode. Can you see the screen? You can, right?
I can only see
The slides.
yeah, I can see it. Mhm.
All right, great. So, hi everyone. I hope you're enjoying your Sunday. The last time we did a LinkedIn Live on UN jobs was exactly a year ago. It was in May 2023. So we thought we would go live again on the same topic to answer more questions and to give you some insights in case you will be using this summer period to apply for jobs or you've already been applying for jobs. So, in case this is the first time you're watching, Sue and I, Sue, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. A lot of you know me. I'm Sue Mentors. I'm also the mentor with Pom Poms to celebrate whatever we do in moving our careers forward. Rawan and I have worked together for several years now, and we're really happy to be able to continue these Ask Rawan Anything, ARA. So I'll toss it over to Rawan now.
All right, thank you, Sue. So for today's live, I will be taking you through how to apply for an entry-level UN job. So we will go through some core information. To some of you, if you've been applying for a long time, it may appear basic, but basics are important. You need to get the basics right before you start looking for jobs, applying for jobs, getting these jobs. So we're going to go through the basics. Where can you get a UN job? Which websites you should go to? Which agencies are there at the UN? How do these align with your own interests? How can you identify an entry level job? Because once you go on these recruitment platforms, there's like 700, 800 jobs. How can you spot those entry level jobs? Because unfortunately, they're not that many. So you need to be able to have like sharp eagle eyes to spot them and apply whenever they're advertised. We'll also talk about the different job types and the different job categories. So, for example, what's the difference between an entry level job, like an entry level international job, or a P or a P job? What's the difference between that and a consultancy, an internship, a fellowship, and so on? We had previously discussed some of these things. So, for example, how to be a UN volunteer. I previously recorded a video on that. So, if you feel there's a topic that is of particular interest to you, if you cannot find the resource yourself, you can just send me a message on LinkedIn and I'll direct you to it. But some of these topics or some of these areas we've already covered before. So I'll go through them, and then if you have any questions, you can let us know in the chat. For Q&A, we received quite a lot of questions in advance, so I've prepared some answers for the people that submitted in advance, and thank you for doing that. It helps us to prepare better. And then finally, some resources. Of course, with LinkedIn Live, you can always go back to the LinkedIn Live to watch it again. You can also watch it again on YouTube, or you can also watch it again on LinkedIn. So you will be able to see all those resources. I'm also happy to share the slides with you if it will be beneficial. So, our terms of engagement for Sue and I. Sue and I are, Sue is my mentor. So we're a mentor and mentee, paying it forward. And really, we don't mind at all if you help each other in the chat. So if somebody asks a question and you have an answer, please feel free to answer. It actually makes us very happy when you're doing that. It's in no way um, disruptive or anything like that. So if anybody has a question, feel free to answer them or to guide them or give them your experience. It's also a very healthy and natural way to network. If you want to ask a question, it really helps if your question is specific. A lot of the time, we receive questions that are very generic, so it's hard to answer with a specific answer. So try to make your questions as specific as possible. For example, to say that I've been trying to apply to this fellowship or this job, or this is my background area, and I'm looking for resources in XYZ. When the question is very generic, it makes it very hard to guide you. So, in general, rule of thumb, whether you're in this live or for your everyday, try to be more specific. It really helps center the person you're speaking to. And smile, enjoy it. Feel free to give us any feedback. The reason we've done this live today is because I did a poll on LinkedIn and about 200 people said they would be keen or interested to join this live. So that's why we did it. There's a lot of like preparation that happens in the background. So when you do say thank you, we appreciate it as well. Um, so we'll start the show. I'll be going back and forth between the presentation and between the slides. I think that's okay. My network is all right, so I should be able to do that. So I'll start with where. So where can you get a UN job? There's tons and tons of sites. I've posted these many times before. The first time I wrote a post on LinkedIn that went viral, it was exactly um, this topic or exactly this question. It was a post that said, "Where can I get a UN job?" And there was like a shopping list of where you can go. So, where can you go? I've only listed a few on this slide. And these are the platforms that I go to. These are my go-to sites. But again, if you are specific, so let's say you are working in the agricultural sector, and for example, you have a very specific interest in forestry. So you know through research that the organization that does this best is FAO, for example, Food and Agricultural Organization. So your search will be much more narrowed, much more focused. You don't need to go to you don't need to go to these platforms anymore. You can go straight to the FAO website. So that's why again I'm saying that being focused is good. You can save time, you can save energy, you can create job alerts on these platforms, and it will really help you with your job search. So I'm going to go to these platforms first just to show you where. I'll skim through them quickly and then go back to the slides. Um, Hi, Namatama. Hi, Vinani. So the first one is careers.un.org. This is the official UN platform. So let me just share my screen. Alrighty. So can you see my screen? Is that a yes? I can't. I only have one monitor. Oh, you're on mute, but okay. So the first one is this one, careers.un.org. This is the official platform to apply for UN jobs. So if you go to careers.un.org, at the top here, there's a search bar that says search for jobs. So if you can just click on this search bar, you'll see tons of jobs. So there's about 818 jobs open today. Of course, you're not going to sift through all of these jobs because simply not all of them will be suitable for you. If you are an entry level professional, I'll tell you which of those categories you need to be looking at. So, for example, there's job networks, which we will discuss. So, all the jobs in the UN are bucketed into 9 buckets, also known as job networks. So, it depends on what you do. So, for example, if you are working as a communications officer, you can be looking for jobs here in this bucket. Instead of sifting through all of these jobs, now they filtered down to 80. Again, let's say you don't want to be looking through all of these jobs. You are a professional, you want to be looking for jobs outside of your own country. So, for example, If you are Kenyan, you don't want to work in Kenya, you want to work in other countries. So you should be looking in the P category. We'll talk about those more in detail, but just to give you an idea of what happens when you filter, you're able to get much more specific and look for jobs directly related to your interest. And this way, you will be saving your own time, you will be saving the recruiter's time as well, because you know exactly which job networks you want, which organizations you want, where you want to work, when you want to start working. So your search becomes much more narrow. I'll go back to the presentation. So this is the main website, the UN Careers website. I'll show you in a second how you can get job alerts. The problem with these jobs is that they're so frequently advertised and they're often advertised for such a short time. Like some of these postings, a job can be posted for, let's say, a week or 10 days or however long the recruiter has posted it for. Let's say this one is posted May 24th, so it was posted before yesterday, and it's posted until June 6th. So it's not such a large window of time. So you don't want to be missing those windows of opportunity because you're searching manually. There's a lot of ways to automate the search process so that you can automatically get an email telling you when a job has opened in the network you want, in the job family you want, in the country that you want, at the professional level that you want, and so on. But in order for you to do that, you need to be able to define those parameters so you can automate your search. So, for example, I'll talk about like myself. The job categories that interest me are the P2. These are international jobs at the UN requiring about, let's say, 2 to 3 years of professional experience. So these are P2s. They're not frequently advertised, or you don't find these jobs that often. So right now there's 22 jobs found. Of course, not all of them will be my area of interest or expertise. I won't be eligible to apply for some of them. I don't want to miss any of those. So for me not to miss any of these postings, I have to create a job alert. And the best way to do that, you could say two ways to do that. You can do it directly on careers.un.org. So once you open the platform, if you want to apply for a job, any job on this official website, it will take you to the back end. The back end of careers.un.org. This is like the HR platform, and it's called Inspira or Inspira, the Human Resources Gateway, sorry, of UN jobs. For some reason, it doesn't work when I try to open it on Chrome. I have to open it. I always have to open it on like another browser. So I'll try again. Once I click on login, okay, it takes me through. I have no idea why it doesn't let me log in through Chrome, but maybe it's like because of cookies on my browser or something like that. So if I go to my home page, it took me straight to this job because I clicked that I wanted to apply for it. So if I go to this Inspira, which is the back end, there's a little bell here, a bell in an email, which is my notifications. So you can create alerts for yourself here. I know it's a lot of steps, but it's really, really worth it. So over here, I've created some alerts for myself, my saved searches and job alerts. So I've created job alerts for P2s. So whenever any P2 is advertised, I get an email. And this is great because it means that I never miss a job, right? So whenever a job is advertised, and it's even better if you're looking for a very specific job. So for example, if you want to be a humanitarian affairs officer with the Office of Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, and you've put a very specific job alert, and you know that your profile is very aligned with that post, that means that every time a job is advertised, you will get an email. So, this is something that I really recommend for you to do. I know it's a bit of a hassle, there's a lot of steps, but I would really like encourage you to do that. Let me see. 1 second. So if you click on job search, you can also create one for yourself. So for example, other like entry level jobs that require 1 year of experience, these are called P1s. So if you go to the P category, and these are rarely advertised, whenever I see those, I post them on my LinkedIn. So um, let me check if there was any P1s that were advertised last week. Maybe there's one or two maximum. So there's one. So there's one that was advertised last week. So if I have an alert for this job, that means that I normally create alerts for P1s as well, not because I apply to them, but because I want to post them on my LinkedIn. So whenever a P1 is advertised, um, I want to apply for it. I don't want to miss those jobs. So, again, I really encourage you to automate this process. Save your searches and job alerts using Inspira so that you can never miss a beat. Let me go back to the presentation. If there's any questions, if there's any questions too, you can like let me know. And then 1 second, I know what's happening.
No questions yet, but I'm trying to repeat on the LinkedIn comments some of your key tips. So those will be in the comments for people as well.
All right, great. So let me just, okay. So there we are. So the platform that I showed you right now was careers.un.org. Another one that I really, really like because it's very user friendly is UN JobNet. So, for example, if you know exactly what you want, another great way to search is using JobNet. So, I'll share my screen again and I'll show you JobNet. Okay. So, UN JobNet, this is like an aggregator or a job board, for lack of a better word. So it's an aggregator or a job board. It's not an official UN platform as far as I know, but it has all jobs in one platform. So if you search, let's say for a P2, this is an international level job at the UN requiring 2 to 3 years of experience. So if you search over here for a P2, it's going to give you all the P2s that are open. So there's about 76 jobs with this keyword. And it's really a great way to like narrow your search. I've searched for a P1 right now. There's three. That's why I always say they're so rare because it is actually like it's a rare sighting to see a P1. So that's why I really encourage you to create an alert because when they are posted, some days or weeks when I open these websites, there are no P1s. So you want to make sure that you catch them all. If you are eligible, you can apply. So it's posted 1 week ago and it's closing next week. So not only are they rare, they're rare and they're open for a very brief period of time. This one is in France, so it will most likely require French. Um, and these two are in Bolivia. So if you are interested in international level, entry level jobs, a great way to enter the system is through a P level post. This is just an observation, but I noticed that the UNEP, the United Nations Environment Program, recruits a lot of P2s. So if you're interested in environmental work, stay really alert with what UNEP is doing because they do hire a lot of young professionals. I noticed that they post a lot of jobs for young professionals. They're very active on social media, so I do encourage you to check their posts. UNICEF as well. I do have an alert on my email for UNICEF jobs, and let's say every week or every 2 weeks at most there are a few international level jobs. The competition is tough, but that shouldn't stop you from applying. You can just get ahead of the game through through automating the process, knowing exactly what you're searching for, and then applying. So let me put this back. Okay. A third one is unjobs.org. Again, this is like an aggregator or a job board. I do encourage you to look at that as well. You will notice on that one is that it's not exclusive for UN jobs. You will find other international organizations. So also don't if you don't want to only work in the UN per se, you can widen your search. If you know what your key strengths are, if you know what kind of job you're looking for, you can also use unjobs.org to search for other opportunities with this with similar job titles in other international organizations as well. So you can use these job boards or aggregators to find jobs in general, not especially unjobs.org and UNJobNet. Sometimes they advertise jobs in other international NGOs. Agency career pages, I mentioned that as well. So if you know 100%, I want to work for UNICEF. I'm keen to work for the mandate of children. This is my passion. This is where I want to be. Then great, you can go straight to the UNICEF job board. You can create job alerts only for UNICEF jobs, even if you want to filter it again by P1s or P2s, or you want to filter it by a specific title, like you want to be a protection officer or you want to be a water and sanitation specialist, whatever job that you're keen to have in the future, in the near future, you can create a job alert specifically for that post, specifically in that agency. I'm noticing more and more and more as well that posts are posted on social media. So even on Facebook, on groups like for humanitarian affairs, on personal social media pages. People are posting consultancies, they're posting procurement opportunities. So don't take social media lightly, especially LinkedIn. Facebook, if you're in the right groups as well. Twitter, there's a lot of opportunities. So I know social media is a double edged sword, and a lot of people use it in ways that ends up wasting a lot of time, but there are a lot of opportunities that are posted on social media. These are usually quicker as well in the recruitment. Sometimes they only require a cover letter or a CV. Interviews are very quick. So sometimes when an agency really needs to recruit fast, sometimes they resort to social media to still have a fair recruitment process and to get a wide pool of applicants, but to make the recruitment process shorter. The UN never charges at any point during any application, so make sure that if somebody posts a job that you look at their profile, it's genuine, they're not asking you for any money, things like that. And their email is official, of course. So at UNDP, at FAO. And there are websites that you can use to check if someone's email is real. There are websites that you can use to get somebody's email if you know their full name and you know their organization. So please try not to get scammed. I know nobody gets scammed intentionally, but these are genuine opportunities. And if you see something on Facebook or LinkedIn and somebody's recruiting, you trust this person, you can submit your information and go through the recruitment process. It might be faster for you. Okay. So which agency should you apply for? Say you have no idea what the UN is. You don't know anybody that works there. You went on the website and you were completely lost. Which agency should you apply for? So the link is not working, so let me quickly get it from my presentation, and then I'll share my screen again. All right.
Thanks to Venani for that contribution, the redirect sites too. That's important to remember.
I see a question that has come in as well. So how strict are the UN jobs when it comes to languages? For example, I only speak one of the several UN languages. Um, so I wouldn't call it strict per se, but like I don't know if strict is the right word because it's an essential criteria for some of the jobs. So sometimes when you're applying for a job, it will tell you that these are the requirements. We require somebody with a bachelor's degree. We require somebody with 2 years of experience. We require somebody that speaks English. And I saw a job this morning in Mozambique, and they want somebody that speaks Portuguese. So these are the requirements. There are things that are like nice to have. So they tell you, oh, it would be really nice to have somebody that knows how to use Tableau and Power BI and knows how to use a mapping software. So the keywords are important. If you're applying for a job and a language is an essential requirement, then it's an essential requirement. If you say that you're fluent for the UN, it means you're fluent writing, you're fluent speaking, you're fluent in all modes of communication. So you can't be, let's say, you write really well, but you struggle to speak, you struggle to understand, and you call yourself fluent. I'd also shared before on LinkedIn, like a language competency framework, which you can see, or I can look for it again and I can share it with you. Um, but generally, if a language is an essential requirement, then it would be really hard, not only for you to get the job, it would be hard if you get the job, it would be hard to do it because a language is an essential means of communication. The English is like one of the official languages. There's also French, there's Spanish. I can't remember them all at the top of my head right now. There's about 5 or 6 UN official languages. If you have a lot of spare time and you want to learn a language, um, I would encourage you to learn one of the UN official languages to increase your chances of recruitment in such posts. Um, but yeah, I would not encourage you to apply to a job that clearly stipulates that you need to be fluent and you don't have that language capability, and that you still apply. Your chances would be very, very, very slim. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. I think I am. Can you see my screen, Sue? Um, you're on mute, so I'm not sure if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. I was answering all the
Uh,
comments. We're getting a lot more questions coming in now.
okay, great. So if you go to careers.un.org, you could see the UN entities as well. This is the official page that we're on. So if you have no idea which agency you want to work in, you can have a quick glance to see the different agencies, what their different mandates are. There's like a one-liner about each organization, so you can go through. Um, so you can go through and read, for example, the World Health Organization. They're responsible for promoting health. If you want to work let's say at the United Nations System Staff College, they're responsible for training and learning and so forth. So this is another way to filter your search. If you're keen to work, let's say on a certain project or a certain SDG goal, you can always go to the official platform for UN jobs, which is careers.un.org, and look at the different entities, the UN entities, to find out which is the best fit for you. Um, this doesn't have all the UN agencies, there's so many of them, but at least you will be able to narrow your search and find out what's the best fit for you. Okay. If there's any further questions, so we can like take a few.
All right. So the first one, I'm going to put it up now. It says, must I have a master? If I only have 2 years of experience with IO within my country at national level, entry level without experience in the UN system, is that a constraint? So good experience, but not in UN is basically the summary of this question.
All right. Thank you. I can't see your name because your account is private on LinkedIn, so you have to make your account public. But to answer your question, yes, in short, most. most P level jobs require a master's degree. Um, the years of experience are okay because a P2 normally requires 2 to 3 years of professional experience. If you're working in an international organization in your own country, that's great. Of course, the experience counts. If you want to work nationally in your own country as well, Ali, if you want to work in your own country as well, you can check the national officer posts. So let's say if you want to work as a national officer in the UN in your country, you can check posts like NOA or NOB. That stands for national officer. So that would be kind of equivalent to the P2 or the P1 level, but in your own country. So it depends on what you want to do. The years of experience, of course, are valid, but if you aim to work internationally, I highly encourage you to get a master's degree. The competition for these posts is so stiff that a master's degree becomes essential even to filter the large amount of applicants that come through the system. So, um, if you haven't gotten your master's yet, and you can you can go for an online master's, a part-time master's, you can study in the UK, it's just 1 year. So there's a lot of options now that allow students to pursue their master's degree. So you can start looking at these options right now if you want to start, if not this September, then next September. But if you are aiming for an international degree, this definitely has to be in your cards to get a master's degree. Um, so the UN employment categories, there's a category called staff categories. I'm only going to talk about the entry level jobs today. So if you want to get an entry level jobs, you're definitely not going to look at senior appointments or director levels. You will be looking at professional levels, specifically P1 and P2. I'll talk more about those in the next slides. If you want to be a national officer, so for example, if I am from, let's say, South Africa, and I want to work in my own country, then I'm a national officer. I have that nationality, or I have a permit to work there. Then I'll be looking for national officer jobs. General services are the same. You need to be from that country. And by the way, most of the jobs in any UN agencies will fall under these categories. So, for example, if an organization has 30 staff, you will have about, let's say, 25 national staff and 5 international staff. So, your chances are a lot higher to get a job in your own country rather than getting an international job. That's not to say don't try to apply internationally. Of course, try. But if you're keen to work in the UN, or you're keen to start working in the UN, a good like foot way to get your foot in the door would be also to explore national opportunities in the agency of your choice. Um, you can also check other employment categories. So, for example, temporary appointments, short term appointments. You can check consultancies. I'm a consultant right now. You can check opportunities called service contract holders. So, service contract holders, for example, their number, let's say service contract 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The higher you go with the number, the more specialized these roles are. So, whenever you apply, you can check the posting and to see if it's aligned for you as an entry level professional. Junior professional officers, these are open to candidates of specific countries only. United Nations volunteers, we'll go through these in a bit. And then fellows and interns. Fellowships are opened every once in a while. Keep your eyes open for those as well, and internships as well. So there's no golden rule, but if you want to be looking for an entry level job at the UN, some key search terms would be P1 or P2. So the P1 is the entry level international job requiring almost 1 year of experience. So when we look through the UN portal right now, there's about 800 jobs open today. Only 3 of them are P1s. So this is how like rare they are. When I even checked like the official platform of the UN, only one of them was showing up. So you can think of it that way, like that one out of every 800 or so jobs will be a P1. So these are rare. The P2 are a little more common. So for example, when we looked through the portal a little while ago, we were able to spot, let's say, about 30 or so P2s. So these are more common. These are more common jobs. They're international jobs. They're more long term, and they're prestigious jobs as well. So the NOA and the NOB, if you want to work in your own country. So for example, if you're Indian and you want to work in India, you can check for the national officer jobs. The higher the letter is, it means it's more specialized. I don't know if they go past NOC, but for example, National Officer C, it's somebody that would say would have a lot more experience or would usually be older than somebody who's an NOA or an NOB. Junior consultancies and consultant one. Again, these are similar to the P1 and the P2. Consultancies requiring, let's say, 2 to 3 years of experience. A lot of people think consultancies are like in the medical profession, like somebody who has 20, 30 years of experience and a PhD, but it's not like that. There are junior consultants and there are senior consultants. Other terms that are more common that you can search by are intern, fellow, volunteer, the YPPs and the JPOs, which are both of these are country specific. But these are the terms that you should be searching for. When should you search? I always say all the time because recruitment can really take up to 2 years, especially if you're applying to be on a roster or applying to be pre selected. So always keep your applications going. If you are in the job market, if you don't have a permanent job, if you're looking for jobs, so always keep your applications going and rolling because recruitment at the UN can take a very long time. So don't expect the process to be quick. Keep your applications alive so that you're not surprised by the timeline. I'll stop here, Sue, in case anybody has any questions.
A couple questions came in. Sapna submitted two, and I'm going to summarize them because you were talking on the previous screen about UN University and also about experience. So, regarding UN University, she was curious if they do research and training across all agencies. And I think the rest of the question you can't really take time to discuss which individual agencies do what kind of training. And then her second question related to these jobs that are posted. Um, she's assuming the level of experience refers to that for the specific role, but you might have more experience than those years of experience in other roles. And I would just say short term for all of you, your experience in any role includes transferable skills that can be applied to a different content area or a different technical or job type. So basically, it's the UN University. Do they do similar research or offer similar opportunities to the rest of the UN and level of experience generally? And then we have one other question we'll answer later on dual citizenship.
All right. So I'm not sure I got them all. There were quite a lot, but so the one on the United Nations University, um, let me answer your question in another way. So each UN agency has platforms, they provide free courses. So you don't need to be a UN staff member to take UN courses. So some of these courses are free. I've posted the links at the end of this presentation. So for example, if you're interested in nutrition and you want to take nutrition courses or you're interested in health, if you're interested in economics, the World Bank has lots of free courses as well. And you don't need to be a UN staff member to take them, and these courses are free. The United Nations University, sometimes they do offer free courses, research and training. So, for example, I think I've taken a course before on the SDGs. It was a free course. I took a course before as well on circular economy. It was also a free course. There's some assignments you have to do to graduate. I've taken also one before on social protection, and these are all free courses. However, there are some paid courses that you can take through the United Nations University. There's also masters, PhDs that you can take through the UN universities. So I know UPeace, the University of Peace, which is based in Costa Rica, and UNITAR. So these organizations and their masters and PhD are not free. You pay for them. But if by research and training you mean like research for your own self development, there's two options. There's the paid courses and there's the free courses. So you can do what's more suitable for you, or if your organization is willing to pay for you to learn something, then you can also explore some of the paid courses. What was the second question?
Yeah, before I tell you that, we have almost 30 people on, and so if any of you submitted a question ahead of time, please put a comment so that I can find you and Rawan and I can answer your question because we're very appreciative of those questions ahead of time. Um, the second question Sapna had is the years of experience relevant to the specific role in the job posting. How and in what way can you, if you have more years of experience or in different ways, is that relevant in the UN system like it is in some other jobs?
Yes, of course. So you answered that already, but experience is experience, right? So it's just up to you to word it in a way to suit the role that you're applying for. So, for example, if you have previous experience, you can focus on those transferable skills. So, for example, if you were working in an NGO and you have a lot of experience in proposal writing, or you were responsible for partnership management and you're applying for a similar role in the UN, so you can focus on these elements. You don't necessarily have to talk about everything else you're doing. Focus on the experience from previous jobs that's relevant to the job that you are applying for. Um, and every role that you have had in your life will shape your character, it will shape your experience. It's just up to you to bring those all together in a way that's like compelling for an employer to interview you, um, and to be intrigued by your different skill set. So that's absolutely fine. Don't worry about that at all. Um, so for the international postings, I don't know, I'm missing an I, focus on the P1s and the P2s. For the national postings, if you are keen to work in your own country, you should look at the NOAs, the NOBs. The NOCs, as I said, require a lot more experience, up to 5 years, and the NODs, minimum of 7 years of experience. So let's say you want to work in your own country. Um, there's the national posting. So you can look at the NO jobs or the general category jobs, the general service. The national officer jobs are normally a lot more technical, a lot more specialized. So let's say if you want to work in a programmatic role or the likes of such jobs, you should be looking at NOAs and NOBs. And you should also similarly be looking at service contracts, SC jobs. Different organizations call them different things, but in general, it's all the same. If you want to work in your own country, filter by your own country. You can either look at the G level jobs, the NO jobs, or the SC jobs. Okay, so the UN volunteers, this is also a great way to enter the UN system, whether you want to work nationally or internationally. So the volunteering categories, if you want to work, are the interns, fellows, YPPs, JPOs paid? Okay, so Vinani, for fellows, YPPs, and JPOs are paid. So maybe the difference is who is paying. Interns, it depends on the organization. I don't post internships that are unpaid on my LinkedIn platform because I don't support free labor, but there are unfortunately still some internships that are unpaid. Fellowships are fellows are paid because fellowships are paid opportunities. The only thing is who's paying. So for example, the fellowship I was on, which was part of it was a collaboration between the African Union and UNDP. So my salary wasn't particularly coming from the country office I was working in. It was coming from the resources mobilized for the fellowship by leadership in UNDP and the African Union. The same for JPOs. JPOs are junior professional officers, and these JPOs are posted by their own country. So, for example, a JPO from Sweden is posted to another country, and the JPO positions are open only to certain countries. So, for example, if a JPO is recruited from Denmark or Sweden or other countries that recruit JPOs, their salaries will come from the government, their own governments. So they're not particularly paid again by the country office. The YPPs, these are the young professional programs. The YPPs are also paid. They're paid well. These are prestigious programs, but the YPPs are not open for all countries or all member states of the UN. These programs are meant to increase um, the participation or the presence of certain UN countries that are underrepresented in the UN. So the YPPs are not open for every country in the world, but yes, YPPs are paid. So, for example, in the last, let's say, 5, 6, 7 years that I've been applying for jobs, Egypt was never one of the eligible countries for the YPP program. But just to stop here as well, because a lot of people get confused, there's the UN YPP program, the UN Young Professionals Program, and then there's also the World Bank Young Professionals Program. And the World Bank Young Professionals Program, it's also a paid program, very well paid, very prestigious, and that one is open um, to everybody globally under the age of, I believe, 32, if I'm not mistaken. The UN YPP maybe older than that, but it's only open to certain member states. So fellows, YPPs, JPOs, yes, paid internships, it depends. So you can just make sure that when you're looking at the job advertisement, it says, will this internship or will be remunerated or not? But the rest are all paid positions. A lot of people also have that question for volunteering categories. So a lot of people ask because the name is very misleading. When somebody says they're a UN volunteer, people always ask, will those volunteers be paid or not? And the answer is yes, they're paid. So if you want to know like how much the volunteers are paid or how much fellows are paid, because these are all people with like similar years of experience. So like a specialist UNV or a youth UNV and a fellow and a YPP, these are all people, let's say, that have years of experience between the 2 to 3 years. So I'll just show you how you can find out how much they're paid because Vinani knows I don't promote free labor. But I'll just show you how you can find out what they're paid. Just and then you can explore that on your own. Okay. So if you go to um, UNV, the UNV platform is called UVP, Unified Volunteering Platform. So if you go to this platform and you click on the three dashes on the left hand side, there's something called an entitlement calculator. So, for example, if I say that I'm going to be a volunteer, I'm just going to pick a country randomly in Ireland, and I'm going to be in Dublin, and I'm going to say that I'm a specialist volunteer because I'm looking for an international position. So, an international UN volunteer specialist. An expert is somebody that has much more years of experience. And I'm going to say that I don't have dependents, I don't have children, and I'm going to say get results. So, it's going to tell me that um, for my first move, for my pre assignment, I'm going to get 4,000 US dollars. And for every month that I'm there, I'm going to be getting around 2,900 US dollars. So, sorry, the allowance, it differs from one duty station to another based on the cost of living in that country. So if the cost of living in a country is high and the rent is high and expenses are high, so generally the living allowance is a bit higher. But if you are in a country where the cost of living is lower, then the volunteer allowance will be lower. So it's not salaries in the UN in general are not static. They differ from one duty station to another. If you just want to have an idea how much an entry level international job you would be getting, it would be similar to this data that you get through the entitlement calculator on the volunteering platform. Okay.
I wonder if we could take, we've had questions from people who've already asked other questions. So I want to give someone who just submitted one a chance.
Okay.
Although it's not exactly entry level, it's talking about when are you eligible to move from entry level to intermediate positions?
Is that the question on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Um, Someone who has 3 to 4 years of local level experience in emergency preparedness, is he or she eligible to apply for intermediate positions, or what do you suggest? I'm from Pakistan. I studied in Italy. Now I have, oh, I can't see the rest of the. Now I have Italian job search. What's the
Job
last
search
word?
permit. Yeah.
Oh, permit.
Mostly, I just wanted you to address the if people are entry level with a few years of experience that isn't relevant to the job for UN, that's just a comment about the years of experience for entry level and when do you start bumping yourself up if you know or have ideas.
Um, I wish I knew the exact answer for that. It's a very good question, Asim. I would say that unfortunately, working in the UN, although you do have some diplomatic privileges, most of the time there's no clear career path. So it's not like I will be a P1 and after 2 to 3 years I will be a P2, and it doesn't work like that sometimes. So some people stay, they enter the UN as like P2s and they stay there for a very long time, or they enter as National Officer B and they stay there for a very long time, for years and years. Um, Sometimes you end up in places where you are under excellent leadership, and when there is a post that opens in the level that's above your own, you can compete for it and you can get it. Or if you reach that state where you are a fixed term staff member and you enter a rotational system every couple of years, you can also be promoted. But that depends on your grit, your passion, your talent, your connections. But to answer your question in short, if you're able to apply, let's say right now you already have 5 to 6, 7 years of experience, then by all means apply for a P3. Don't enter the system at a lower level and stay there. If you have the experience, also have the courage to apply for jobs that you're qualified to do so that you can enter the system at a higher level with your own qualifications, with your own background. There's no need for you to enter the system at a lower level if you are overqualified for that job. Because there's a question that also got asked in the chat or in the questions that were submitted before the call, for somebody that's asking like, I have 3 years of experience and I want to apply for a P1, will I be accepted? I mean, yes, you might, but why would you want to do that? Like, if you have more years of experience than what you're applying for, you might get the job, I understand, or you might want to enter the system, or you might be keen to work internationally. But even if you want to apply, maybe apply for both, apply for jobs that are at your level or above your level, and also apply for jobs that are, like, let's say, you would be overqualified to do. But since there's no clear career pathway to get promoted and so forth, I would, in most organizations anyway, I would say that try to enter the system at a level that is suitable of your own qualifications. If anybody else in the chat is an HR professional or an HR expert and you want to say something different, by all means do so. Or if you have further information about how somebody can stay in the system and get promoted, you can also give people advice on how to do that. Um,
Rawan, I just want to let you know only have a few more minutes before we wind up. So you're going into questions that were submitted, and we'll do as many as we can. And we could stay a little bit longer if you, Rawan, have time. Otherwise, Rawan and I will figure out how we get the answers back to those of you who submitted ahead of time and weren't able to attend. So I'll leave it to you. Go ahead.
all right, sure. Um, So Q&A, the questions that were submitted in advance. So this one we've already answered. This person is asking for entry-level UN jobs. So Rama, if you're On the call, look for P1s, P2s. If you want to work nationally, look for NOAs, NOBs. If you want to work in the general service categories, you can also check those. If you want to be a junior consultant, either search for the terms junior consultant or consultant one. As a recap, right? If you want to look for junior professional officers, if your country sponsors JPOs, then look for those positions. If your country does not sponsor JPOs, then unfortunately you will not be eligible to apply. If you're keen to be a UNV, um, you can look at the UN volunteering categories. I've recorded a video on that before. If you're a junior professional, since you're asking about entry level jobs, do not look at the expert level roles. You're not going to be eligible for those. Depends on your age. You can look for the youth specialist, community, or university volunteering posts. As long as the volunteering job is on site, you will be paid. If it's an online volunteering post, it's not going to be paid. So, just so that you know what you are applying for. And as a recap to people that were here from the beginning. Question number two, Linda's asking how she can leverage on her volunteering and internship experience. Many companies don't seem to consider it as experience. Um, I really don't agree that volunteering and interning are not experiences. So that these are very valuable experiences. They're not easy to get. Now there's a lot of competitions for people to be volunteers and to be interns. Um, if if you do feel that way, or if you're applying in spaces that you feel do not value that experience, I would advise you to leverage on your networking. One of the most precious things you will have built as an intern or a volunteer is your network. You will have met a lot of people, worked or interacted with many partners, many donors. So leverage on those networks, try to get recommendation letters, follow those people on LinkedIn, show up for them if there's an event. Include these experiences on a CV. As usual, for your CV or cover letter, focus on your achievements, your results, the tasks that you were doing. If you're volunteering or interning in a UN agency, you will have to take some courses, for example, courses on gender, courses on safety. These are mandatory for all staff. So you can also highlight these courses that you have taken as part of your interning or volunteering, because if they were to hire you again, sometimes you don't need to take those courses as long as you've taken them within a certain window of time. So for a recruiter, it saves a lot of time if somebody has already taken those courses, they're familiar with the system. And you can focus on transferable skills. Again, we're mentioning transferable skills, so things that are universal to not
Can I
only.
just jump in real quick? You already said on your CV, put in your results. Here's my take on this. Make sure you list it as experience if it's more than just a one time or very short term volunteering. Don't lead with volunteering, lead with a descriptive title of what you did communications, social media management for the HIV Bureau or whatever it is, even if that's not your full original title from where you worked. And then make sure you lead with and put it in reverse chron order where it falls, but lead with the skills, the experience that you got out of applying your skills. And there are examples Rawan and I both have on our profiles. I have a course that talks about this in step 2 when you're writing your long CV and documenting your history, how best to describe volunteering. And I have some things on my YouTube channel as well, if that would be helpful. But remember not to put yourself down too low. Use your experience for characteristics of work. What experience did you gain? How did you help people? And in what way did you produce results that they could use? And then in what way you actually demonstrated some of the people skills, communications, writing, teamwork, leadership. All of those can be demonstrated even as early as your teenage years if you are in school and you are president of the chapter on social media or something like that. Thanks, Rawan.
No, thank you, Sue. And it's really good to remind people of the resources that already exist, so that in future lives we can focus on topics that were not covered. There was a question on, can you update me on the CV format for a UN job? This is a bit of like a vague question, but in summary, how people apply for UN jobs, or the CVs that are most commonly received. So a lot of people structure their CVs in a typical resume, the resumes you're familiar with, which with the STAR approach or the CAR approach, the situation, task, action, result. I'll show you an example of what that looks like. And I'll also show you an example of another type of CV, which people in the UN, people applying to UN jobs frequently submit this format. But just to be specific, I really have not seen a lot of people do that for entry level jobs. So people do that when they have a lot of years of experience. I can show you an example of how each of these looks like, but you will notice that for the achievement or the competency summary, the achievement oriented resume or CV, it will be a little tricky to do that if you don't have the wealth of experience to allow you to drill down into each of the competencies with specific results. Um, all right, I'll be able to stay a little longer just to answer the remaining questions, maybe for 15 minutes. And then I'll drop off. 1 second. 1 second. All right, let me just present, share screen. Okay. Okay. I hope everybody can see. So the typical resume. So can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see 2 pages side by side.
Okay, great. So the typical resume, let me just zoom in so everybody could see a little better. So this is a CV for like illustration purposes only. It's like not it's just like a mock or a demo CV. So this person, let's say they're applying. So this is a typical resume. So you will see that he's applying for a job, and then for each job, he's saying that his experiences in the STAR approach. So he's going to say mobilized $2.5 million, wrote and presented on social networks, included. So he's starting with an action word and continuing with the results that he achieved in his previous jobs. He also has a summary of his qualifications at the beginning of the CV relevant to the job that he's applying for. So, this is a mock CV, so it doesn't say which title the person is applying for, but of course, you can mention this title and relate it to your qualifications. I'll show you the other one, which is a little more unique, which is an achievement oriented CV. So this person, again, the same person is applying for the same post, but what he does here is that he goes to the UN vacancy that he's applying for. He's applying somewhere, like he wants to be working in UN AIDS. He's going to write the name of the post here, and then he literally copies the competencies from the job posting. So the competencies are strategic thinking, resource mobilization, partnering, and networking. So he has a whole section on his CV called a competency summary where he focuses on his specific skills, and he links them to the competencies in this post. Again, this would be a little hard to do if you don't have a wealth of experience. If you're a little more advanced in your career, you will be able to do this more easily, and your CV will be very specific. It may catch a recruiter's eye a lot more easily because you're telling them exactly what you can do for each of the competencies they're recruiting for. So these are the two common ways that people apply for UN jobs. A normal CV, 2 to 3 pages. Do not exceed the 3 pages. Black and white. It has your details, a summary of your professional experience, a summary of your education. The only thing different is that the typical resume will have the STAR approach, whereas the achievement oriented CV will focus on the competencies that you pull from the job description. Um, how how many pages CV is good and in which format? For example, in Europe, they ask for the Europass. Okay, so Asim, I could see your question in the chat. One second, let me just go back to the presentation. Okay, so to answer the question that just came in the chat, um, no, there's no specific format. The Europass format, I also used it before when I was applying for scholarships in Europe. It's a bit long, if I remember correctly. There's a lot of formatting. I wouldn't recommend you to use that. So if the jobs in Europe require that, then great. Use the format that the jobs in Europe require. But if you're applying for UN jobs, I would say if you're applying for an entry level job, really try to have a CV 2 pages. If it's not possible, then 3 pages. Um, you can also try to tailor it to the specific skills that with the you don't have to list everything. So one of my colleagues has like a document. Literally, he lists every experience, everything he does. He has it all in one document. It can be whatever, 50, 60 pages. And then whenever he's applying for a job, he just like pulls out the relevant things. So, I mean, that's another way to do it. Whatever works for you. But ultimately, the recruiter doesn't want to see more than 2 to 3 pages, and they're most interested in the things that the job is asking for. So, in that sample CV we saw, maybe that person has a lot of experience outside of AIDS jobs. Maybe they've also worked on polio. Maybe they've also worked on the COVID response. But since this person is applying in UN AIDS for a resource mobilization for AIDS, the CV is focusing on that, like how much resources he mobilized for previous AIDS projects and so forth. So, you can just look at the CV from the employer's perspective, not your own. Like, what would this person want to see, or what are they most interested in, and focus on these things, even if it's like a little hard for you. Um, the next question. Oh, I think I skipped a few. I was just like running. So the next one is the person asking, what's more important, networking or traditional job applications? So this one is a little bit tricky. So you can do both. There's nothing that will stop you from doing both. So you can pursue the thinking inside the box route, which is having a CV, having a cover letter, having a good, clean, sharp LinkedIn profile, going to recruitment fairs, going to events, and so forth. So that's thinking inside the box. It may lead you to a great job, or it may lead you to running in circles because you're doing a great job, but you're doing exactly what everybody else is doing. There's other options to think outside the box, which is something that I'm seeing more frequently now. So yesterday, I helped a young woman who's applying. There's a food company that she really wants to work for, not a UN agency. And she really wants to work for them. She's been applying for 2 to 3 years. She's not getting any calls. She's a graphic designer, and yesterday she created a menu for them using their own products. She designed it and she sent it to their manager in the morning to say that you want some, why don't you hire me as your graphic designer and I can create those products for you to increase your sales. So some people are really able to think outside the box. If there's no job advertised, maybe create one. Don't be afraid to knock on doors. If there's a UN agency that's maybe close to your house, you can ask, especially if you know the name of the director or the manager, you can ask if you can speak to them. Never do something silly like trying to push your way past security, but please um, be bold, right? So if you want to be in those spaces, you can also try to go to events. You can try to connect with people hiring on LinkedIn, search for the hashtag hiring, followed by the job that you want or the agency that you want. Create the opportunities of your own, and also don't underestimate the power of branding yourself, personal branding. So the woman that I was telling you about yesterday, she always says like, I'm a graphic designer and I design menus. So it's impossible to forget her. She's so specific, right? So if you know anybody who's opening a restaurant or anybody who is in a food industry, you can say, I know a woman who knows how to make really nice menus or really nice food packaging, because she's so specific. So brand yourself Word of mouth is an excellent way to get a job. It's not easy, it takes a lot of work, but brand yourself, use word of mouth, use referrals, use your own magic by showing up and being there for others. And maybe by using both methods at the same time, you will be able to get a job. Sokhna. Okay. Is there anything else in the chat or should we go to the next one?
No, I just told the chat we're going to finish up with these pre-submitted questions that people gave us, and I would say just give each person the highlights because we have not even 5 minutes left to be able to conclude.
All right, great. So the next one was Sandra. Sandra, we already answered her question earlier on. So she's asking, she has experience in cybersecurity. Um, she never sees openings. Okay, so actually, Sandra, I think you're in a very good space. There's a lot of positions, not only in the UN, but positions in general, that are advertised with the rise of AI for cybersecurity and internet security and other things. So I think you're in a very good space if you have these qualifications. From the UN job networks, I would advise you to filter jobs by these two networks, the iTechNet, information and telecommunication technology, and maybe the safety net as well. Maybe you would be able to get a job in the security and safety network. So maybe look for jobs in these two networks. Cover letters, Tatenda, we already had a whole session on cover letters before, so you can go back to that. In short, your cover letter does not have to be very long. It has to be specific to the job that you're applying for. It has to show a bit of personality and it can be structured. So I just put a little example over here. So to this person applying for a job, it's 3 paragraphs. The person has like an intro, a body, and a conclusion, and they sharply focus on the position they're applying for. Even if your skills are not directly aligned, make the direct connection. Yesterday, I saw this is somebody applying for an HR specialist role. Yesterday, as well, I have somebody in my LinkedIn network that got a job as an HR junior professional in the UN, and her background is purely data analytics. She doesn't have an HR background, but they were probably looking for that person who can create dashboards, who can monitor employees' performance. So I'm sure she sold herself and she packaged her CV in a way that made them recruit somebody with a non-managerial background. She has like an IT background. So also make sure to read the job posting really well, follow those people on social media, read press releases and business stories, find out what's missing and try to provide that to them. I think these are the last two questions. This one is oh, so this person is asking, sometimes when you're applying for a job and they ask you these like short questions before you submit your application, besides the CV and cover letter. So Ashna's asking, how can she answer those questions? The answer, Ashna, is that you really need to be very um, as specific as possible. Only mention the relevant things in bullet points and try to quantify your achievements. So they give you like maybe 2 to 3 sentences sometimes to say, um, it, for example, provide your experience in data analysis. So there's no space for stories, right? You just need to say bullet points, or I have 3 years of experience creating dashboards using this software. I know how to analyze quantitative and qualitative data using these types of software. And I was able to, let's say, raise performance by X% or mobilize X million dollars. So there's no time for stories, bullet points, relevant experience, and aligned with the job you're applying for. I already answered this question. Can we get selected for P1 positions? Yes, but don't do that. Apply for P2s. Do we need strong references? Of course. Okay, so conclusion. Entry level UN jobs exist, but not in abundance. So look for them and apply closely and carefully. Highlight number 2, know where, when, how, and how long it takes to apply. And highlight number 3, it's up to you what your highlight was to add it to your own conclusion. And that's it. So for the next steps or your turn, it's up to you. Where do we go from here? You decide. Hold yourself accountable, what you want to do, and commit to those steps. So over to you, Sue, and then I can share the slides with the free resources.
Thank you, Rawan. I think you'll all agree, those who are still on, we have almost 20 of you, that we got a lot of information from Rawan today. The chat, I tried to help you with some of the key points. And this will be available immediately when we end the stream. You can go back and watch the live immediately. You won't be getting the slides, but you can look at the LinkedIn Live and stop on any screen you need. And we appreciate your interest. Thanks to the 8 people who submitted questions ahead of time, and we got them answered thanks to Rawan staying a little bit. And Rawan, I'll let you close out. You're just showing your free resources, which again will be available. In the future, look for a posting from us on the list of all the lives that Rawan has done with me and where you can find them, the links to them, so that you can find some information that may no longer be on LinkedIn.
So thank you so much, Sue, for organizing and for being a good sport with the questions and for creating the form as well, allowing people to submit in advance. I think that helps a lot with preparing and giving people information that they need. If you need any more information, you can contact us on LinkedIn. I hope you're already following us. If not, you can feel free to do so. My book is called No More Job Secrets. It's on Amazon. Chapter 6 is on UN jobs. And my Gmail account is also no more job secrets at gmail.com. You can email me if you have a particular question. If you have ideas for future lives, let us know. If your question is confidential, also let us know. And that's it. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And if you have suggestions for future LinkedIn lives, you can let us know in the chat so we can plan ahead. Bye.